is a little bit triggered. Apparently, Maddox is a little bit triggered. I called him a Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of fair, though.
Did you really call him a Nazi? Because I was just trying to get him to read between the lines.
No, I said he looks like a Nazi. I don't have any grudges against that.
Oh, my God.
Honestly, man, we've seen you wear a hat.
This is just fucking rich. Okay, Gavin just called me Speed of Manson. Like
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson or Charlie Manson? Could you? There's a hell of a difference between the two, actually.
Yeah.
And what did Gavin said? He's going to expose my private emails if I don't debate him. And like, debate him over what? I checked him out. I haven't heard him say a coherent thing about biology, and he wants to fucking debate me about evolution. I mean, what the fuck?
Are we doing a response to their response of our response to their response?
Well, yeah, but we're getting way behind, man. Where are they? Oh, they've only been live for how long?
The point that is conveyed to the audience.
What? This is going to get very confusing for me.
No, that's me talking. But
okay.
Let's see how Smokey manages to miss just everything that I say, because Smokey has shown his intellectual superiority.
Okay, Andrew Graham, he's waiting for the evidence to Matterlay's law. Matterlay's? Like mayonnaise? Matterlay's. I'm not sure.
We'll make him look like a fool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if he wants to come on and do it, and we will go over the page.
What? That I have had a channel for less than 9 months. Because we're only in the 8th month of the year.
I've had a channel for like 2 months.
Try again, bro.
Wait, what
did I say?
9 months. Yeah.
What did Nicholas say?
And never has he actually. Okay, let's see what they're saying. Addressed one of those papers in detail, and I invite you, Matt.
What does he mean by that? Do you think addressed in detail? Because I'm not.
Like go over one specific paper. How many interpretations are there of that?
Okay. And we will go over the paper.
What does he want? What does he want from you?
For first 9 months, yeah. My channel 9 months have not passed in this year, and if you go do some basic research on my about page, you'll find out that I have had a channel for less than 9 months.
Did I get it wrong?
8th month.
Did I like not go to his about page?
Try again, bro.
I got some problems that I need solving.
Yeah,
so
ridiculous.
Should I send it your way, or what's
reason
the deal now?
And what intellect, and take a look at what the paper says and see if it supports you. And the only paper that I will disallow, well, we might even do that one, is Abel and D'Onofrio, which he chose, because those guys are basically ideas in sheep's clothing. And we could go over one of those papers. That's where he gets the pragmatics. Oh, that's great, because Maddox just told us they used to call him Alpha Wolf at his last software company. The last
Wait, really?
Did he say
Alpha
that
Wolf
statement?
Did he say that live?
He did. He said he was Alpha Wolf, man, because
like in this live stream.
Yeah, just now, just before you dropped in, he said he was
Alpha Wolf.
I mean, holy fuck.
Maddox, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like work etiquette.
Oh shit, we're live.
But it sounds like you might have some gay employees there. He might trying to be fucked. He might want to fuck you. That's kind of what that sounds like.
Yeah, with that new haircut, man, he's really looking hot. It's just like, holy shit, he better watch out. He better hold his hand over his butt. What the fuck, Alpha Wolf? We're gonna start calling him Alpha Wolf now.
Okay. So hang on. So I'm gonna have to call. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, so you know how Lord Pudding doesn't? He admits he hasn't actually read it.
He's stuttering.
Yes.
Yeah. I like Lord
that
Pudding.
Moron has clearly not read all of the papers in my folder.
That moron has, but I have fucking read them.
The only place
you haven't read anything in your papers.
Semantics.
Now I hope they go to our live stream and start streaming our live stream.
And Trevor's.
Hold on, I want to see what his claim is here.
On has clearly not read all of the papers in my folder.
Have you read all the papers?
Well, clearly.
If he thinks the only place where syntax, semantics, and pragmatics are delineated are in the Abel and Trevor's papers, he's a moron and has not read them. The other paper.
Maddox, I guarantee you have only read the abstract of your papers, and even then, that's being very generous right now. Let's not play this game.
Well, I think Willis talks about pragmatics, and one talks about syntax, and the other one talks about whatever. But no, did I make that claim? That's the only place where I think all three come together in D'Onofrio. The way the way Alpha Wolf talks about them. So
you can't call him that because I can't like say that or hear it with a straight face.
Well, can we call him Beta Wolf? How about Beta Wolf? Beta Wolf.
Oh man,
There's
some things you just don't tell
Nor has
people.
he actually done any kind of Google search for himself.
Any
to
kind of
find
Google search.
Many other
Oh my God.
secular sources that
Secular.
clearly delineate this. There's literally been books written by atheists.
Yeah, and I fucking own them.
On the exact
Asshole.
subject of the programming logic rules.
Oh my
in the
God,
genetic
programming logic rules? No,
I
not so
just-
fucking much.
Okay. The guy doesn't actually read.
No,
Continue.
I don't read
Yeah, I
a
almost
thing.
I
think it
doesn't
does.
actually
I don't
read.
think it does.
That's
Immutable
that,
is
that
also
truly is a
fun,
statement of
but-
irony.
Nice.
That
You can
is.
play this game with Maddox, and for those of you that are interested,
He's got like a vocabulary of like 4 words, like context, premise, and well, there's probably about 12 to be fair. I don't know. Should we go? I wonder if they've caught on that
we're
we're
wrong at home,
huh?
and you feel like joining this community. Go into a conversation with Maddox and just agree with every point he makes, and then ask the following question: okay, but how do those points prove your God?
Yeah, or how do those points disprove evolution, which is what godless engineer attempted to do at least 5 times during this debate.
Yeah, the thing is, so like the earlier thing, like you mentioned, this is the first time I believe like he has directly like referenced some of the papers that are in that folder. So if nothing else,
Wow.
he's-
Yeah, I gotta address that. So apparently, these idiots, specifically Immutable Destiny, if he's in here, have not actually watched very many of my debates because there have been multiple in
Paying
which
them to
I
debate me.
specifically showed quotes, had citations, and then I got nothing but ongoing crap from the opponents about, oh, well, you're just cherry picking, and oh, I don't know if that's actually a real citation, and all this other kind of crap. So, which is why I started just making the folder public, and being like, go
so
read the
you didn't
papers,
actually
and
pay
then
attention to how I prefaced that statement, did you?
Yeah.
Which is that if I'm wrong, I will happily take correction towards that. And if you did cite a paper, congratulations. Do you want a cookie? I will give you a cookie. You've earned it.
We're 2
And the
minutes
thing is,
behind, so
3-day shipping, that would be a stale
at this point,
To my knowledge, like when he cited papers in his earliest debates, what he did was he pulled a quote from it and verbally said it. I don't recall him showing it on screen. So you have nobody to blame but on yourself for that criticism, Haddock.
Speed, have you been watching the live comments?
Oh man.
Yeah, okay.
okay. Anyway, let's see. What do you guys thought? Do you guys want to listen while I type this? I'm trying to get it.
Sure.
Okay.
Gotta not
Well,
be
fucking-
too far behind.
Well, no dead air, please. Okay, now we're behind again.
I didn't even know we were
bunch of
streaming
idiot
tonight. I didn't know we were
Twitter
live
nerds.
until like 3 minutes after we were
dismiss
live.
Whatever it is that he doesn't like and doesn't.
Dude, I didn't know we were streaming until you told me they were doing this. So then I decided
Me?
to respond.
I
you
just
see,
told you that there was a thing because I saw it.
Did you see the title of my video?
align with his worldview because he wants to make sure he actually dies when he dies, like, and actually, won't have any semblance of consciousness, even though all the evidence out there is directly to the contrary. Amazing.
Wait.
Pure desperation
Hold the
is
fuck
just shocking
on.
to me.
Congrats.
Hold
I'm
the
glad that
fuck
you're
on.
finally learning how to be a somewhat decent human being and a somewhat decent debater. But also, I'm glad that you're showing us your sources. Because the more fun step now is now that
Say
you've chosen
pause
to be honest
loudly
with
if you
us
want me to pause.
about the
'cause
papers
it's
you use, it's
confusing.
going to be that much more fun to tear you a new one.
Pause.
Pause.
Okay, I paused.
Yeah, Skokie, I don't know what evidence you're using for people like going to heaven physically and that being like physically detected. As far as I know, when people die, it's lights out Alice. I've seen people take drugs, die, and then kind of like resuscitate. But I wouldn't actually call that death.
Well,
Like it's what do you mean? Like that of people like that have gone to another life. How are you accessing this knowledge?
He's probably talking about like NDEs, which I think is a bad line of argument, but that's probably where he's going with it.
It's a horrible line of argument, but then again, his is the person that claimed that consciousness isn't physical.
Okay, I just sent an email. I emailed you. Okay, so what's happening?
I don't know. We're behind.
We're behind again. Should we catch up?
Honest?
Let's catch
That
up.
guy? Come on. Maddox doesn't know honest. Wouldn't know honesty if it bit him in the ass.
Well, he'd be afraid to go over one of those papers because he really doesn't know what those papers say.
It wouldn't hit him hard enough if his wife divorced him.
You're reading a whole bunch of things you don't know what they say, as opposed to Speed, who sits on a bunch of books he just doesn't read at all. Apparently.
Yep, I don't read them.
That's a better way to go, Speed.
Why don't one of you
I think I
little
have it already,
pussies
so-
come in?
Well,
Oh, what is this Universal? Okay, 2009. Eugene Koonin was talking about the.
Did I not ask Speed to provide me just one naturalistic argument from his stack, from his library behind him? One?
Smoke, let's play for just a second because I think he's about to. And by the way, just as a sidebar, I'm gonna just go ahead and predict that Lord Pudding is about to take the position that the Eugene Koonin paper that I mentioned is from 2009, therefore must be outdated. So let's just see if that happens. And
He's
then
already watched the stream, right? So he knows I'm going to say that.
And just, well, you'll see. Go ahead.
Anyway, I got another one here that we're going over tomorrow.
tRNA adapter problem. And anyway, we got to get to some stuff here.
Naturalism as foundation of Darwinian evolution is man. I was really hoping he was going to keep going.
Oh, I didn't make the claim.
He might later.
Analysis. We are told that evolution is a settled.
That was well written. You got to hand it to him.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was still arrogant. It was still.
Oh, well, Speed was willing to give it to you a little bit about it at least being well written. Still won't recognize or, acknowledge any of your arguments or your points or, but
Barely
he'll give
made
you
any
credit for
points.
being well written. Beautiful,
You
Speed.
use fancy words.
Beautiful.
To be fair, I gave him a compliment. It was a heartfelt compliment. I mean, I don't give John too many compliments. They should be happy when they get one. I thought it was pretty fucking nice of me. I don't know. I was especially, did you know his name is Alpha Wolf? Leophilius? Is that how you pronounce it? Leophilius? How do you pronounce your name?
it could be setting up his mic, so it'll be a minute.
Okay. Well, I see his mic. His mic is on. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're gonna.
That's the only time he actually wrote coherent sentences that didn't run on.
I guess I wasn't so heartfelt. I fucked it up. I should have just left it, Oh God, I feel bad now. I mean,
I don't have any regrets about that live stream at all.
I insulted Beta Wolf. Fuck. Should we call him Alpha Wolf or Alpha Beta Wolf? How about that? I don't know. I can't decide.
No, that's getting a little long.
Yeah, okay. Beta Wolf it is. Anyway, I challenged him to a debate on the chat over here. So, should we catch up?
Yeah, sure.
Leophilius, speak. He's muted now. I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if
Probably
it's
fixing his mic or something.
but it might. So I keep saying my.
Oh, is your
connection
mic
changed
working?
When I was upstairs, so I might have to stay muted until the rest of my family goes upstairs to bed because I can't really be downstairs talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Because you guys will hold on. Give me a second here.
Well, that's cool. We wait for a few minutes. Okay.
Just remember the following point.
Veiled.
A well-crafted shit
Veiled in
sandwich is
criticism.
still a shit sandwich.
Excellent.
Oh, let's see. I had a buddy that used to love saying life.
Oh, fuck it.
papers.
Talking about
And all
Randy.
this stuff. You know what? Where's your papers? Where's your sources? Where's your claims? Where's your arguments?
I'm
seen
so
nothing.
busy
I've seen nothing
downloading
but
their
whining
papers. I
and
haven't got to
nonsense is
mine.
what I've seen. Don't you agree, Maddox?
I would have to agree. Yes.
These assholes Gish Gallop 20 papers every every single debate, and you got to go out. And not only that, but they don't give you links to them. So you got to go out and
This is the first time. I'm so proud of Smokey. He's starting to actually understand things. This is the first time, Smokey, you've asked me for a source on a bio or anything like that. Oh my god. Oh, please.
He was talking to the great Fuzz Rana today, the paid liar for Jesus. I've been listening to Fuzz Rana.
You start acting intelligent. Go after Fuzz too much. Midlife crisis here, man. You can't do this to me.
Yeah.
My heart isn't ready for the amount of stupidity that's about to spew out of your mouth.
Oh my god.
And he's going to repeat it like 9 times during this debate, at least in one
okay.
No, I'm picking on him about the words. I admit I was doing ad hom here. I'm picking on John's mastery of the English language.
I'm pretty sure you correct yourself right afterwards as well.
Do I?
I remember this debate quite well. Maddox, please cite a source that gives that claim that evolution states.
Oh, that was you.
Information is not a fundamental, or that information is fundamentally an amaterial process that exists in evolution.
It comes from nothing.
Yeah.
He gets into the immaterial stuff a little later too.
Without the genetic code housed in our DNA. In any other context, a person would consider.
In any other
context in here 25 times.
27, I think.
I counted.
It's insane to insist that a language of any kind spoken
I had to cut down a few.
form without consciousness and intellect.
So I noticed that Maddox didn't
any rational
The
person.
metaphor. DNA is like a language. It's not a language itself.
Well, the thing is, right? I could get behind the fact that like DNA is a literal language in terms of like its actual function and its similarity towards, like, in its resemblance towards like logic gates and AND gates and OR gates and stuff like that. The thing is that you have to remember that those types of things are always built upon a set of logical rules.
Well, I mean, Christopher, I think if I remember correctly, Christopher said that Maddox was wrong about that. So they're not logical
Can you
gates.
guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I tried to talk when I went back upstairs. I don't think my sound came through. I just came downstairs because it's going to be easier. One of you mentioned a Fuzz Rana, and I wanted to provide a comment on him because I respect him greatly because he is. He's a valid professional in the field. I just think that the way that he kind of spins off the conclusions that a lot of the research in that particular field have reached in terms of abiogenesis is, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's dishonest so much as I think it is misleading. And I can't necessarily state that he's doing it on purpose, simply just more principle of charity. But I do think it is rather interesting that we have a professional in this field that is at least in some way or another discounting the conclusions that research in his own field has reached. I find that a little odd.
Right. But okay, here's why I made the comment I did about him. I too respected him, but then I've listened to 3 or 4 interviews in the last few weeks from him, and he's repeating the same things over and over again, almost like it's scripted. And then I find out he's working for, I don't know which organization, AIG or one of them.
No, well, okay, so Foz is actually an old Earth creationist.
Yeah.
So I would take like 10 Fozes over, one Maddox.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm getting a little. It's just that I'm very suspicious, and I have my ears up with Foz Rana because some of the shit he has said, like for instance about membranes and basically proton gradients. And then I went over to Scolopedia and immediately pulled up about 100 papers that were talking about why that's, how those issues are being dealt with. And I'm thinking, okay, have you shut your brain off? I don't know if you guys know about a sea slug, but a sea slug has a brain. It's an animal, and it floats around, it flies around, and then plants itself on a rock. And the first thing it does is it eats its brain. It digests it.
Sea slug? Are you talking about like tunicates or?
Yeah, and Eric Kandel made the comment. He studies sea slugs. He's a famous neuroscientist. And he made the comment that sea slugs are kind of like tenured professors. When they get tenure, they plant themselves on a rock and dissolve their brains. Of course, he is a tenured professor, so he can make that joke. But anyway, it was pretty funny. But yeah, Fuzz Rana is starting to concern me with the amount of repetition he has done on his talks and hitting the same points over and over. It's almost as if it is scripted, and that concerns me.
So my thing with Foz is like the only thing he actually has arguments against is abiogenesis.
We lost Leophilius. Oh,
okay. Well, he'll probably be back. Yeah, he was having internet problems. But the only thing Foz ever argues against is abiogenesis. Like his whole thing, he believes in faunal succession, and really all of his ideas against evolution are entirely faith-based, right? And if he's open about that, like I don't really care, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the origins or bust type of people, and that's an interesting argument in its own right.
Oh, okay. Oh shit! I removed you. I'm having trouble keeping up with the Leophilius. How do you say your name? Say your name.
Yeah. So the internet connection we have Leophilius.
Oh, Leophilius. Okay. Call you Leo.
Yes. So
or can I call you Alpha Wolf?
That's fine. If you
not
really
do
want
that.
to, I'm not going to be opposed to that. But we have two internet connections. We have our regular one and then the 5G version. So I connected to the 5G to see if it would be any faster, because sometimes it actually is a little bit stronger, but it wasn't. So I just reconnected to the original one, and that booted me back off. But I'm actually like, the modem is sitting literally like 6 inches behind my laptop, so I shouldn't have any problems moving forward.
All right.
Are we ready to roll? Should I roll forward to what they're talking about?
I was going to add something, but I would rather you just kind of move forward a little bit.
No, go ahead. If you want to make a point, go ahead and make it.
Well, yeah. It was something else that I heard Fuzz Rana say when I watched a debate, and it was an older debate. And actually, I think it might have been the second time that I watched it. But he's a character that interests me greatly, simply because he's a professional in this field, yet seemingly discounts so much of what the field has shown that also, surprisingly enough, seems to run counter to his personal beliefs. But he also said the same thing in a debate that I watched. I think this one was actually only a couple weeks ago, maybe, with Gutsick Gibbon, Erica, on Modern Day Debate. And he brings up this point about when people cite papers showing the strides that have been made in specifically origins of life research, and how we have come a long way in discovering how certain organic compounds necessary to life might have formed in certain prebiotic conditions that may have been present on the earth, and how certain processes that are also necessary for the first forms of life, or just life in general, how those might have occurred on a prebiotic earth, or in conditions that could have existed on the prebiotic earth. And the objection that he gives to that, and it's another one that a lot of other theists like Smokey Saint and John Maddox and many others give, is that, oh, well, those are highly contrived laboratory experiments that are also highly controlled by humans. So there's that intelligence factor there. And I got to be honest, I think I can't, again, for the principle of charity, I won't say that this is a dishonest talking point, but I certainly think that it's very, very misleading and very much misplaced, because almost every scientific experiment is a highly contrived laboratory experiment controlled by humans. I mean, if we look at the Large Hadron Collider, nobody in their right mind would say that's not a highly contrived laboratory experiment that is also very, very closely controlled by humans. But that still doesn't mean the knowledge it's given us about particle physics and about some of the most fundamental aspects of our reality is somehow not true, or must somehow have itself an intelligence factor in it. And I would have at least expected that, given that Fuzz Rana is a professional, a PhD in the field, he would know this. He would know that almost all scientific experiments are the same way. But that doesn't do anything to dismiss or downplay the importance or the significance of the experiments that have been done and the conclusions that have been reached in them.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, that talking point came up, among the Standing for Truth Brain Trust and Anthony Maurice. And, and I agree with you. I can just discount it when it's them, because they seem like they don't have a clue how you might solve the problem of abiogenesis or figure it out. And then I heard from Fuzz Rana. That was the other thing that really kind of set me off. And then I think the third thing that set me off is his entire argument when he debated, I think, Erica, was I wasn't compelled. When I heard this, I wasn't compelled. And it's like, I don't know. I have a theory about biochemists and particularly people that work in certain parts.
Be very careful with the words you're about to say.
What's
Treading
that?
lightly.
Oh shit, that's right. Biochemists tend to look at their diagrams and fall in love with them and believe that there's some kind of logical plan involved in chemistry. And I know you don't agree with that, Immutable. The cell is a puddle of mud. I mean, there are mechanisms that we can trace out, but those mechanisms do not happen every single time, and a lot of other shit is going on. And when you draw out a diagram, you tend to start seeing just the diagram, which is a reductive approach to science, right?
Yeah, well,
yeah, it would be like looking at Feynman diagrams, assuming that that's exactly what's happening as it's depicted, which any physicist would tell you, no, that is a highly contrived, very intuitive description of what we can say is happening at that level of reality. So I understand what you're saying completely.
Right. Okay. Should I play a little bit of this? Should we catch up to where they are now?
Yeah.
Okay, they're calling me speed of anger now, and
Speed of anger,
speed of pudding, and
live streams or
all of rage.
The chat talking. I've never seen you really lose your cool or get angry. I would say that at least from what I've seen, you seem to have certainly more patience for these types of individuals than many others do.
I did once with Anthony Maurice. I actually got mad at him.
But that guy is, I can respect his fervor, but at the same time, I think that he gets a little ridiculous in some of the claims that he makes, if I do say so myself.
Well, which claim particularly? Because I'm still trying to figure out when he made an intelligible claim.
Which one I want to use as an example. So when he says that because we haven't yet understood abiogenesis through natural means, that therefore it cannot be understood through. I just don't think. I mean, because the thing that's the you're going to make, then. Oh, hold on here. Give me a second.
Yeah, it looks like your mic was cutting out of here and there.
Yeah, roboting a little bit.
Yeah, now it's good.
It's better now. Okay. So the thing about, I'm trying to figure out where I was. So the objection that he brings, that I use as an example for the pitiful objections that he brings, is that, well, we haven't understood abiogenesis. We don't have a natural explanation for it. Therefore, we cannot. Would be like saying that because we haven't yet discovered how gravity works on the quantum level of reality, that therefore it can't be natural. That's not something that anybody in that relevant field would agree with. So I don't understand how haven't done it yet somehow equates to cannot do it ever.
Well,
I don't see that connect there.
So remember that there isn't an actual connection there. What creationists are trying to do is they're trying to essentially say, here's something science doesn't understand. So that means God is allowed in this as a potential explanation. Which that's that's wrong on a lot of levels.
I disagree. That's not what they're saying. They're not saying God's potential explanation. They're saying God's the only explanation. It's literally the we don't know, therefore God argument.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it's God of gaps, fundamentally.
Like, there's plenty of scientists who are religious who believe that it probably was due to God, right? And those people aren't actively trying to, like, get rid of the other fields of science, trying to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the majority of those people, though, like the majority of people that, who are putting that opinion forth, are also going to be people that agree that there's some physical mechanism being used to achieve that goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Despite whether or not you agree on the particulars of that thing. So, I mean,
well, if you completely shut yourself off to the idea of a physical mechanism being possible, then you're going to get disproven.
Well. The thing is that even like the intelligent design argument fails at that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, if you wall it off, like you say, oh, this isn't possible. If someone shows, it's the whole God of the gap thing. It's like it's going to continue getting smaller and smaller. At some point, you're going to have to accept that God used, physical properties to achieve whatever he wanted to do.
Well, or literally that God magicked it into existence, or changed temporarily.
Yeah, but there's
just one of them.
There's passages
Another
that are like
point that I think. Another point that I think is important to make there is that if someone's going to say, well, God could have done it through natural means, my question would be, so then why do we need a God? Why can't it just be the natural mechanisms that, at least as far as we've ever been capable of showing, thoroughly explain whatever it is and do not leave room for anything non-natural?
Well, yeah, so that's pretty much my actual philosophical position. But at the end of the day, like, I don't really care about, theistic evolutionists or people who generally believe in metaphysical God, but still side with science. You know what I mean?
By the way, yep, go ahead.
Well, I just think like that's not really an issue. They're not really holding the advancement of society back like the way these guys are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I saw the comment from David Neff, I am supposed to be debating LPP John Maddox at some point. I don't know. Originally, it was supposed to be on Modern Day Debate, but naturally, James is just swamped right now, and he's doing a lot of work on his PhD right now. So he's not. That's why he's had Hunter Bailey, I think, is one Converse contender. Erica Gutsa-Gibbon doing some of the moderation. And I have no problem debating Maddox because, I hear a lot of people say that he's rude and disrespectful. I think he can be, but I also think that his opponents also get a little bit provocative with him. And when you do that, at some point, you need to expect your opponent to lash out. I don't plan to do that. I plan to actually talk to him about his ideas and his system of belief and what he thinks the best reasons for it are.
Okay, the thing is, that's where shit hits the fan. Like, if you watched what we were saying earlier or watched the stream last night, what I was making the point of is you can agree with anything the man says, right? I can grant him all his premises, and he still won't be able to prove that a God exists.
I know. Yeah. The furthest that their argument could get them is that life was designed by some sort of extraterrestrial intelligence, but they can't get to it being a non-natural intelligence at all.
Yeah. No. And the thing is, like, even if you want to push like soft deism, okay, great. So God decided to create the universe, then fuck off.
Yeah.
Then fucked off with it. Okay. Great.
Stealing my language.
I have no reason to believe it exists. Exactly. I'm back to being an atheist.
And I think that again alludes back to if you're going to argue that, God created the natural world specifically to do everything of its own accord, then where do we need the God? Why should we make that? I would think that Occam's razor would shave that away because it's unnecessary assumptions being added to the model that do not add any extra explanatory or predictive power to it.
Mm-hmm. The only way I can kind of like accept or kind of take like that point seriously is if you want to argue that a set of steps that needs to occur can only be like achieved under like that they must occur under like intelligent processes.
Yes.
Like for instance, if I saw a car like floating out in the Milky Way galaxy, we don't know of any life other than ourselves. Like, you look at the car, it has a brand name, it might be Toyota, it might be Subaru, whatever. At that point in time, and unless, like, NASA secretly launched, like, a Toyota or Subaru into outer space that I just didn't know about.
What else is in the rockets?
Like, that would be something that's worth a thought.
Yeah.
That'd be something that's like, okay, that's...
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if we had a precedent or something that at least indicates a likelihood of things beyond the natural having some sort of effect in what the natural world does, quite frankly, I would have no problem accepting that. It's just that there isn't any parallel or precedent. There isn't any verified indications of. There's just not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think the issue that Maddox is trying to get at here is that something is complex, therefore God, or at the very least, that appears to be his argument.
Yeah, it's complex, therefore it must have been designed. There's no other way it could have come about.
Well, he does this. He does this equivocation with language. Like he'll point out where somebody said that DNA is a code, and of course you can look at it and that it is a code. I mean, we call it a code all the time, but then he uses the sort of the everyman's version or idea of code, and he switches it to programming language, or somebody will say something about logic in DNA or logic in biochemistry, and he equivocates and he says, well, it must be the logic that we humans use. and or they'll say it's a language. Well, when we call DNA a language, or we call something in biochemistry a language, we mean a certain thing. We do not mean that cells are going to talk to us, right? It's not that kind of language. So then he goes from that, and he basically makes the inference to, if it's a language, then it requires an intelligent designer, and that's where he loses the thread. And if you try to if you do what you're saying you're going to do and try to drill down with him, I think he will get angry. I don't know.
Yeah, he will. It's not like it's not a matter of like I think he will get angry. No, he will start to get angry. By chance, like, did you happen to watch his debate with Godless Engineer or?
Yes, I thought Godless Engineer did a pretty good job, and I
did.
think one of the things Godless Engineer did is that instead of going down that rabbit hole of all this technical language and technical stuff that John tries to kind of sort of almost pigeonhole his opponents into and then intellectually flex because he knows more of the terminology, Godless was sitting here like, no, look, dude, it's almost like something that I would do in a debate where he's just like, you don't really have anything that indicates that your conclusion should be accepted. We don't have stuff that tells us that this is the case. It seems to me to be more his, as in John's, misinterpretation of what the field is quite frankly saying.
Yeah.
Right. Like the thing is, I understand that like logical plausible probable is kind of new to the community in terms of like being here and participation within it. But still, it's just the thing that confuses me, like really, really confuses me, is like he said something to the effect of I think he's trying to argue in a broad sense that, like, for some reason, translational pausing like negates gene similarity or something like that. Like, it was a very broad point he was trying to make.
I often hear him make the argument that translational pausing, he used to call it ribosomal pausing, and then I guess realized that the more technical term is translational pausing because it is. That this is an example of some sort of, I think he words it as a temporal control. And I have my own issues with translational pausing because I do have a couple professional sources that show that while translational pausing can be beneficial to the general processes that it's involved in, it can also lead to some problems that can actually be pretty severe, which I think begs the question that even if it was more useful than it was not useful, all the effects that it created were more beneficial than they were negative. Why are there still negative effects given that it was intelligently designed? Why would an intelligent designer design this system with inherent mistakes in it?
Yeah, typically ribosomal pausing will kick the nascent protein out of the tunnel.
Nascent
and
chains.
then it gets eaten. Yeah.
Yep.
And
what were you gonna say?
So, how many places did you find in eukaryotes where ribosomal pausing is actually beneficial? I think they said I know it happens in prokaryotes, and there's the Shine-Delgarno sequence or whatever, but in eukaryotes, I think they ended up saying that they had evidence that it was beneficial in some cases. But I mean, are we talking about how many cases are we talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't ubiquitous.
The article I have, I can't remember if it specifies prokaryotic versus eukaryotic. I have to read it again, but just from the little snippet that I pulled from it, at the very end of that snippet, it says, moreover, there are many situations where ribosome pausing is important for production of proteins, as will be discussed in the following sections. And they did kind of go into that. Like I said, I can't remember if they made a distinction between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. I'd have to read it again, but I would argue that even if somebody says, oh, well, it's got its benefits, that, well, there are still problems with it occurring, and I still want to know why an intelligent designer would not have completely eliminated the problems.
Right.
Well, God just wanted to make it look that way. Don't you know?
Oh, God was fooling us.
And if you want the link to that particular paper that I quoted from anybody, I can give it to you at any time.
Sure.
Once we go off air, probably, yeah.
Yeah, or you can put it in private chat or whatever. We have stuff in private chat. Yep. What do we have in private chat? Give me a second. Oh, okay, that's you.
So do we just? So
Yeah,
I don't
did
know. I
send
mean,
some when I was joining.
I don't mind like listening to the conversation they're having, but I don't know.
I think
Seems
they're done.
boring because
Are they done?
I don't know. I just it doesn't seem like. Well, first of all, I noticed that it seems like Maddox is kind of going easy on me a little bit. Like that when I say insulting things towards him, he's going after you more than he's going after me.
Yeah, that's sort of a common. That's kind of a common game, you know. When
Well, I
you
mean, they haven't
Can
said
I
anything
add
about me.
just
I
a
feel kind of left out. Should I say more
Can I
insulting
add-
things towards them? Oh,
Yes.
what were you
Can I add a quick
Yes, Walker.
comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've noticed that at least in the probably 4 or 5 debates I've watched Maddox in, and I've watched some of the stuff that he's done on his channel, and then some live streams and stuff like this that he's been in. It seems to me that if he feels that another individual might know more than him, he doesn't seem to go after them. I don't want to say as viciously. I feel like vicious would be too provocative a word, but he doesn't go after them in the same ways as people that he thinks he might know more than.
Oh,
I think
boy.
that might be why he's sort of going easy on you, is he might feel that you probably know a little bit more than him on the subject. I would argue that.
So what you're saying is Immutable is the true alpha wolf, and he's just the
Yeah.
beta.
Yeah, I'm just
the
a
alpha,
beta
the
wolf.
alpha, okay? No, your place.
No, I was saying Maddox is the beta wolf, and Immutable
Yeah,
is the alpha
yeah.
wolf.
Hey,
And
I use a
one
beta
debate.
describing other males as betas, and I was like, okay.
Well, the debate that I had with him,
No.
I had a debate with him on Standing for Truth's channel, and the reason
I
it
did
went
watch that.
sideways, is he figured out that I was a programmer and I could see through his programming bullshit, and I wasn't going along with his other bit of dialogue. And as soon as that happened, and I did know about some of all the papers that he was talking about, and everything went south after that. As soon as I challenged him,
Yeah.
he started getting angry, and then it kind of went off the rails, and we never really got anywhere.
Yeah.
So
I just think
Did
my biggest
anybody
reason
watch
to
the
not
debate?
want to. Oh, what were you saying?
I was gonna say that I didn't know if anybody in here watched Maddox's debate with RJ Downard. I think it was on Modern Day Debate.
Yeah,
RJ, I have to be honest here. I don't like wording it this way just because I think it's overly provocative, but RJ definitely, I think, demonstrated it well, John. And I do think John has some understanding of this subject. I can't comment to how rigorous it is. I have yet to have a conversation with him myself in any degree. But I think he's got at least some understanding of the subject. But I think RJ he did a very good job in showing that John doesn't know quite as much as he might think that he does.
Yeah.
And that his arguments don't really hold any water.
Well,
in other words,
RJ's really good at that.
Absolutely obliterated him in that debate. I really did.
Yeah.
RJ is really good at like pointing out what people don't know because RJ actually knows the sources.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the good thing about RJ is that he actually takes the time out to kind of parse out like what his opponent knows and what they don't based on like the sources that he's choosing to represent in his debate.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it just doesn't, like, you can tell that like either the person hasn't read it or that what they're saying doesn't seem to be representative of the entire field.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like RJ, I don't know. He's one of my favorite people to watch in debates, and unfortunately he doesn't do too many because he just has such a huge database. Yeah. Like he knows everything. If they throw out a quote mine, he knows the quote mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be even something like fairly obscure, and RJ just knows.
The only time I've ever seen him not have a reference is when is during that debate you're talking about when Maddox threw out ribosomal pausing. And the reason for that was...
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I know. You have to talk to me. I'd send you a private chat. Basically, I know where that ribosomal pausing thing came from. I know the paper that it started with, and there's something very fishy about all of that. So, I mean, it's real. And then Maddox tries to throw out something that nobody's heard about, like when he debated... I don't know who the two were on Modern Day Debate, but he came up with microRNA. And I looked into that, and I found a really interesting story behind all that too.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed
Yeah,
he sort of
I
stopped
looked
saying
into-
that recently.
What the hell is going on with my phone here?
What'd you say, Walker?
Oh, I said I've noticed Maddox has sort of stopped talking about how microRNA is completely overthrowing phylogenies.
He has. I think he finally figured out what he did wrong. But it was I have if I don't
Not checking your sources.
Yeah, the video is probably old news by now, but I really need to put something out on it.
You know, I've said this from the get-go. I do think you need to like actually fulfill his own criteria and kind of like lay out your issues like with his arguments and things like that.
Yeah.
And just if that's how he wants things to like reinitiate between you and him, so be it.
Well, I think Molecular Alchemy and I are going to go over one of the papers tomorrow that he's constantly I don't know if it's the one he's referring to, not the one he referred to in the last debate, but I think it's in his stack. It's Kunin on, I've got Kunin 2009 is the one he referred to last night. And I've got Kunin, let's see, 2000, what the hell is it? 2016. So we're going to go over a Kunin 2016 paper, the meaning of biological information. And we are going to lay out a little bit of what I have a problem with Maddox by going over that paper. He claims that even Kunin says it's a code, even Kunin says it's information and all this bullshit. Well, it's a good idea to look into what Kunin actually says about information. And he's got some very interesting things in this paper. So we're hoping to do that tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to do it live or not. Go ahead.
I do want to ask.
I guess you might call it an objection to this whole DNA as a code, because I did find several professional sources, and so a lot of them are books, and obviously I don't own them, I couldn't read them, but I spent quite some time, probably a few hours, trying to find excerpts from them and follow up on the snippets that have been pulled from them. And it does seem to me that a lot of those relevant professionals, it's not that they would say the DNA is not a code, or at least that's not a good analogy, but they would say that calling DNA a code is more an analogy than it is an actual ontology. And I don't think that pulls away from the usefulness of that analogy. But if somebody were to ask me, do you think DNA most literally is a code? Personally, I think I would probably answer that question with no.
That's pretty much what I said last night in the live stream.
The idea here, right, is that most biologists, I think, are fine kind of doing this thing of like, is it a code? Sure. If you want to call it that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
well, it depends on what you mean by code. If you have some other meaning hidden, buried in code, and every idea in creationist loads the word. They're loading the word code and language, and that's what I mean by equivocating. Language. Okay, so that's what Maddox is doing. It's this whole fucking game. It's like it's a code, therefore it has to be intelligently designed. And you see, if Maddox actually had some real arguments, I think I could more easily go after him. But that is his only argument. Have you heard him argue have you heard anything else that he has said that you could call an argument for idea?
And there's another fundamental issue as well, which is that he needs to address like the fundamental nature, like the way, like what the code is rooted in, essentially, right? Because like certain logical systems are rooted in Boolean algebra and other very interesting little mathematical systems that permit, true false statements to arise and all this other fun stuff. But chemistry operates on a very different and interesting set of rules on its own regarding chemical reactivity. And if you have a ketone here, well, then that means it might react, but it also means it might not. So it depends on what's surrounding it and yada, 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 yada.
Yeah.
The point being is that, like with chemistry, there are some reactions that are very specific, and they're mostly controlled reactions that do that. But there are some reactions, like when you place two chemicals together, they react kind of randomly. They form a mixture of several different compounds as the result.
And I forget what the packing is in the cell of proteins, but it's a lot higher than you would think. I mean, there are proteins basically like in 30%, I think, of the volume, there's all these different proteins, right? So you got the stochastic element, and then in between that is water, which at that level is extremely thick, and water has a hell of a lot to do with these reactions. It's really hard to make a case for logic gates or any kind of mechanical machine design for a cell, because it's pretty much stochastic. You know, it's not it's not these clean little diagrams that they like to show in the videos, even though, you know, they're beautiful.
Well, like I was saying the other day, and I doubt Maddox will actually understand what this statement means, is that biochemistry itself, and cell biology for that matter as well, in truth, I mean, the way you can describe it is that it's a gradient, like it's a chemical gradient of reactions that are interacting with each other. And that is a very, very, very complex process.
Yes.
That's not something that's very easy to describe how a cell is behaving. Like if you deprive it of if you deprive it of glucose, for instance, or something like that, because there's so many like universal metabolites that the cell uses to create other complex molecules like citrate and alanine and glucose and all sorts of different stuff that it uses. I mean, it's fascinating, like the diversity that's generated. But the point is that cells are very convoluted systems. Like a lot of a cell's fate depends on what type of cell it is, like where it's differentiated, but also the types of cells it's interacting with.
But we've never created a cell in a lab. Don't you understand? God, we've just never done that. That means
I know. I know.
And we're the only intelligence that we know of, so that's proof that intelligence cannot create a cell, right? So,
I would think so.
I mean, intelligence isn't enough to create a cell, basically. And the whole thing, we are tool makers. We make things in our garage. We go out there and cut some boards. We get some bolts, right?
Tinker.
We can't do that. We can't do that with a cell because we're too goddamn big and clumsy, and we aren't smart enough or patient enough to wait for 4.5 billion years for shit that.
Well, the thing is, right? I mean, what's kind of surprising about the origin of life, and what's really shocking, and I do hope this gets an answer as well to it, is that, I mean, according to the evolutionary model, single-celled life started to appear about 300 million years after the planet had finished cooling down. So I believe it's about 3.8 billion years ago. And that's the origin of like prokaryotic life as far as we know it. But what's so bizarre is that it took another 2 billion years for eukaryotic life to develop. Like for eukaryotic cells in the way that we know and love them now to start appearing. So there's like this huge gap in time between like basic cells, like being cells that don't even bother having a nucleus to house their DNA, to cells that that are magnificently and like unbelievably complex in how they maintain information and deal with certain things. And the fact that it took so long, of like 2 billion years, I mean, to me, that's kind of interesting, and I hope it has an answer to it as towards, and number one, why did it take so long for that to develop?
Well, the answer is in complexity, and the kinds of steps that have to be taken are so. Like I always talk about the network graph. It's basically there is a network graph with nodes, and there are an enormous number of those nodes, and you have to find a path through those nodes, basically, and that takes time. And these are very, very small steps, and that's why these very complicated structures popped up. It was through these very, very tiny steps over an extremely long amount of time. And I know the Creationists hate when we appeal to billions of years, but I'm sorry. That's what the hell it takes to make something that fine. You know?
To ask a person that actually like knows about evolution, Walker, would you like? Would there be a reason? Like, I could imagine, for instance, you might say, like, okay, perhaps the reason it took so long was that at that point in time on the early Earth, like the environment at that point was kind of in stasis. Prokaryotic life exists. It doesn't need to do horribly much. There's tons of prokaryotes in the oceans. Nothing to sweat here. Nothing to sweat here, really.
Yeah. So that's actually a really interesting question. First of all, it's not like, obviously evolution is not a march of progress. There's nothing that says complexity has to arise, right? And then another thing about that is that the early Earth was very, very hostile up until about the Cambrian, really. The Ediacaran, the Cambrian is when the Earth started chilling out, because like right before the Ediacarans, the Cryogenian, which was literally snowball Earth, like all of Earth was covered in ice sheets and stuff. Which is actually when most early metazoan diversity occurred, right? So like that's when you have the first sponges, jellyfish, that kind, or cnidarians, not jellyfish. But so that's when you have like early diversification. But really, most diversification has happened in the past 600 million years, just because that's when the Earth has been the most sustainable for multicellular life.
Right. I mean, I was going to ask, like, if you have an ocean filled like with prokaryotic life for what is 2 billion years, longer than that actually, what would pressure eukaryotic life from developing? I mean, why would it be encouraged to? Like, if there is some kind of pressure for it to start emerging.
I know there's that one study that, obviously multicellular life is bigger than single-cellular life, and there's that whole thing with like the cube law. So there's only so big that a single cell can get, or a single cell can only get so big. So we were able to get it in a lab by introducing predation to small single cellular organisms that eventually became multicellular. That's one theory. I mean, optimization of resources. So I mean, you have single celled organisms that lived in colonies. What are those things called? The like mounds in Australia.
Yeah.
But so it's, in my opinion, pretty easy to see how something like that, like one of those interdependent colonies, could eventually start specializing and having different cell functions.
I mean, I think one of the things I've seen is that a lot of it seemed to emerge by like horizontal chain transfer between different essentially, I don't know if it's different species, but like different types of bacteria. Archaea at that time kind of transferring genetic information back and forth until you have enough complexity for a eukaryotic cell to start blossoming.
What is this guy talking about? Warlord Pliskin?
I was just about to ask. Is that guy just?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I've been kind of following it, but basically, I didn't know that U.S. atheism was dead.
I didn't know there was such a thing as specifically U.S. atheism. I did have a quick question, Speed. Do you know if Smokey Saint watches videos on your channel frequently or not?
Oh, he does.
They all do.
His ego is way too big for him to not.
Hey, all I got to do is enter one chat, and those fuckers will talk about me for 10 minutes, calling me pudding and
honestly, it's very like it's impressive,
Well, the reason I asked was because just this past Saturday I was in one of Smokey Saint's live streams, and I gotta be honest, it wasn't bad. And I Nephilim Free was in there. I'm sure you guys know who Nephilim Free is. I know him.
We do.
Talk. So he was in there, and I joined because the Raging Atheist first joined, and I wanted to join, and I was like, I don't want him to be alone, so I joined. He ended up leaving because it was late. He wanted to get sleep, but I gotta be honest, at least that interaction was not a bad interaction. And I realized, and the only reason I asked why Smokey watches his channel is because if he wants, I would be very, very much interested in having a debate with him on naturalism versus what I would assume a position he would take would be like naturalism versus theism. I don't know if he would go specifically Christianity. I think he would probably take theist.
Well, that's how you're going to get
I would be very interested because me and him did have actually a very, very civil exchange on that a couple of times. And like I said, when I want to debate somebody, it's not because it's not for a lot of the reasons why people normally think one wants to debate. For me, it's because I want to expound on my position a little more, and then maybe understand yours and figure out where there are similarities, where there are divides, and why.
Oh, okay. So, wow. Okay. Do I even want to do this? I do. Okay. Okay. I I did at some point, like off air, ask him about, like, what is it with you and some of these like scientific theories? Because some of them he's accepting towards, but some of them he's like, he just goes like towards a very kind of, I don't know, very, I guess I'd call it like severe denial, like in terms of like what the theories actually state, like in the evidence surrounding them. And what essentially I got away from that, and he all but told it to me, is that like with evolution and stuff like that, he sees it as being something that's, I guess, what he would call like overly complex. So he thinks that like he wants, like his ideal envisionment of this type of thing is that science follows a very deductive format. It's like if A then B, if A then B and B then C, therefore A then C. That type of thing. He is unwilling to accept like theories which are. He appears to be unwilling to accept theories which are based more upon like inductive logic, which he views as inferior to deductive logic.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because I don't know if you would agree with this. I think you were just kind of characterizing his position, but I would personally argue that science is more inductive than it is deductive. That there are deductive aspects of it, but the general, a lot of people call it methodological naturalism. I read one of Sean Carroll's books, and he classified it as methodological empiricism, which I personally do think is a better term. Is, I would argue, for the most part, an inductive process.
Yeah,
that's the thing about science, is that the only really deductive part about science is the idea of like physics and the mathematics that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
Mathematical laws tell you what's going to happen. They are, for the most part, very deterministic. They describe the system as well as you design, well, as well as you account for how to design the system. And so that's not an issue. But I guess one of the things is that mathematics, at the end of the day, I mean, even in some of like the most grand theories we like to hold to, ultimately, if something doesn't, if the data that we have cannot be, well,
borne out mathematically,
cannot be supported by, if a theory cannot support new data, then the theory needs to be revised.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
back to the Smokey topic for just a second.
Yeah.
I had conversations with Smokey, and I really liked the man, and we got along really well. But then he kept wanting to he wanted me to defend naturalism, and I promised I would, and I wanted to have that conversation with him because I'm a strict naturalist and I believe I can justify it. And then he kind of kept bringing it up at odd times, like at the end of that Anthony Maurice thing. And then he kind of like went off on me, and then he warned me not to do a video going after John Maddox. And I did it anyway. And I went after Tony, and he warned me not to do it, and I did it. The next conversation I had with him, he just freaked out on me over some Buddhist thing, right?
Yes, he had a misunderstanding about what nirvana actually is,
right?
Or at least to speed, yeah.
Yeah, because he's very familiar with the Western version of it, but nirvana itself mostly just means death.
And since then, he has been calling me a fucking dumpster fire of morality, and he just went off on me. I mean, we went from being friends and doing some back channel conversations, and I really liked the guy, and it kind of I don't know, it just kind of it set me back in my valuation of humanity, what he did.
So,
and I think everyone will find that with him at some point if you do not agree with him.
So
I first started getting hints of that whenever he like did that show with Shadow Dancer, but I've talked about that a few times. So.
Yeah.
I actually don't blame him for what he did with Shadow Dancer, only because Shadow Dancer really kind of nailed herself on that particular thing.
Yeah, I blame him. I blame him for the way he did it because she was a woman. That's why he did it.
Well,
yeah, so the way he was justifying his action, like she was being annoying, fair enough, but like the way he was wording his disagreements with her, right? His phrasing, I guess, how he was describing like why she shouldn't interrupt the brothers' conversation or something.
Right. So yes, that's the issue that I have as well. I mean,
because the Bible said that women are supposed to apparently bring pastries and keep their mouth shut. And then that was basically his argument. It was like, what the hell are you talking about, dude?
I wanted to throw out really quick that if anybody want, and you don't have to watch the whole stream. I would recommend kind of skimming through it. But if you want to, if you go to his channel and you look at the video, I can't remember. It's like Challenge Smokey, some like Saturday night Q&A or something. It would have been just for this past Saturday. Me and at least 7 different theists went at it about, let's see here, naturalism, consciousness, quantum mechanics, very small amount of abiogenesis. Praise I am tried to tell me that wave function collapse is a result of specifically conscious observation. I asked him to explain the math behind wave function collapse, and he couldn't do it. And so I just posed the question, if you can't explain the math, and I can, albeit I'm not a professional, to what degree can you make the statement that you are more qualified to speak on it, at least than I am? Because I understand this. I'm not a professional, but I understand it at least a rigorous enough level to know when people are stating things that are just not correct.
Well, yeah, I mean, the collapse thing is simply due to the restraint that probabilities have to equal 1, and
yes,
yeah, it's not a too big of an issue to explain it, but
exactly.
And the overall point, like I think if you were to ask kind of a cursory question, like about quantum mechanics or organic chemistry or something to kind of introduce the field, right? Like, okay, you want to talk about abiogenesis. Okay, well, can you tell me what a Diels-Alder reaction is? Anybody who's taken organic chemistry 2 knows what that reaction is and what it does.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, it takes a diene and a dienophile, and it reacts them to form a cyclohexene.
Yeah.
And that's basic organic chemistry 2 knowledge.
I think I did ask him a basic question because he mentioned something and said, "But do you know what that is?" I think I got drowned out because everybody started to jump in, and that's what it sounded like on my laptop. Well, but I had said, please, with me, I don't want to sound pompous, but with me, don't get into that. Do you know this? Do you know that whole argument? Because I can tell you right now, if I asked you what Brockett notation is, you probably couldn't answer the question. And Brockett notation is actually, it's very basic quantum mechanics. Like you learned that in QM1. So at the undergraduate level. So this is not something anybody purporting to understand quantum mechanics at a level at least rigorous enough to make claims about its ontology and the epistemology concerning it should know what Brockett notation is.
I think that's the whole point of like Dan's most recent video, or like Dr. Dan Creation Myths. It was like here's 10 questions for creationists. I invite any of you to come on and prove that you understand like basic biology.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell if these guys understand basic genetics, and you can tell that they don't. Like Maddox, if you listen to him, and you can also tell that he's not a programmer. I mean, there are certain things that you can tell that a person doesn't know anything about what they're talking about, or that they don't know that specific field, right? And Brockett notation would probably be a good one if somebody claimed to know something about quantum mechanics.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, like that's a very niche point. Well, okay, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Brockett notation is important. So. That's fine. Except for if you're trying to understand like quantum mechanics at a very basic level, you don't entirely need it.
Yeah, no, you don't.
You need to.
See, that's the thing, but. If you don't want to understand quantum mechanics, if you only want to understand it very basically, you don't need to know any of the math behind it. But I guess the point that I would make is at that point, if you're at least in the instance that you are having a discussion with somebody who does understand the math along with all the other just intuitive concepts within it. How could you confidently state that you are more qualified to speak on it, at least than that person that you're currently interlocuting with?
Well, yeah,
Right. So to clarify my own point, like as a chemist, we don't go into as much of the notation you need like with quantum physics.
Yeah.
We go into like the Hermite polynomials and the whole thing about orthogonality and Hermitian operators and things like that, properties that Hermitian operators and wave function does, and it seems that that's fairly sufficient to understand like the heart of quantum mechanics.
Yes. Leo, did you listen to the stream on SFT's channel, I think, where John Maddox was telling Dr. Dan that he didn't know genetics, that he didn't know what he was talking about?
I don't think I've seen that.
I mean, it was just enraging. Walker tends to fly off the handle every time we mention it. But I mean, he was sitting there.
And the thing is,
beating him.
I've been told by people, and I don't have any college degrees in anything, so I'm not a professional.
Yeah, I don't need.
But I have.
Don't like criticize.
There are other lay people out there, so there are other people that don't have degrees that know more than me on these subjects, but I can still keep pace with them in a discussion. I've had people try to tell me that I don't understand astrophysics or quantum mechanics or cosmology before, and I don't even get offended. I just laugh because it's like, even if you knew more than me, and especially if you knew more than me, in having a discussion with me, you would be capable of understanding that I obviously understand these subjects at a fairly advanced level. Again, and not anything too rigorous, but generally a little bit more than what your average layperson probably knows. At least I have observed.
Yeah.
And so I just laugh.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, just stop.
You know, I wouldn't feel intimidated going up against Fuzz Rana, but I would.
Neither would I. I really wouldn't.
But I feel intimidated by Dr. Dan. I had him on my channel, and I mean I've studied very hard, but he intimidated me because he really does know his shit. And this molecular alchemy that's probably going to be on our channel starting tomorrow.
Sick.
He's back. He intimidates me because he really knows.
Yeah.
I mean, he is actually working in the field, and so did the what is it, 11th dimension we had on abiogenesis.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a time when we have to shut up when we realize that there are people here that know more than we do.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna claim that I know more than pretty much anybody in this chat. Like, you know, maybe on like the history of life, you know, paleontology.
Probably.
But like,
I'll give you that, Walker. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, but like, if somebody who is an actual paleontologist came on and they said something that I was pretty sure was wrong, I still wouldn't contradict them because they probably know shit that I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the problem I have with John Maddox. It's I know it's ad hoc. He was calling Dr. Dan an idiot, and Maddox. When you listen to Maddox talk about genetics, you realize that he only knows just a couple of things that he read and a few
buzzwords. He knows buzzwords. His whole argument is buzzwords. And that's what's mind-blowing to me, because he sits there and he calls a guy who literally teaches the class on evolutionary biology and genetics. He is a professor at Rutgers. Like, he's teaching undergraduates about this stuff. And he's sitting there saying, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I do. And it's
and he doesn't. It is clear that he doesn't. So how do these people think? Is it the case that they don't know enough about the field to know how much there is that they don't know?
No.
Well,
so that's the textbook definition of
that
Dunning
he
Kruger
says
effect.
these things with such confidence, to me, is just astounding.
Yeah.
I would never in my life get into a discussion with say Sean Carroll or Lawrence Krauss, and they said something that maybe I didn't agree with, or I didn't know enough to know that what they were saying was correct, and call them an idiot for it. I never would. But I think that there's a point where you do understand a subject at an advanced enough level to know how little you actually know about it.
Well, yeah. Like I said, that's just the textbook definition of the Dunning-Kruger effect, you know?
But
Yeah, well,
that's why I always lose a debate with these guys when they bring up a paper that I'm not familiar with. I will be I'm not gonna confidently claim things until I've read the goddamn paper, and even even at that, I have to really understand the paper. And oftentimes, I'll read a paper and I'll be like, I got to read that again because
you got to read it a couple times. Cross-reference what it says, things like that to make sure it's something that is, or at least we can see if it's reflected within the relevant academic field. And that's the thing is when people throw, well, I got papers. It's like, that's cool, you got papers, but even if they're peer-reviewed, that doesn't mean that they're
right.
Factual, that they should be taken seriously because they're peer-reviewed academic papers, but that doesn't mean that they're correct. And you can't just throw papers at people and be like, therefore I'm correct, because reading papers, like I said, oftentimes you got to read them more than once. You've got to cross-reference what they say with other papers in the relevant academic field. There's a lot that goes into what I call data analysis. And I think that people think that, well, once they have papers substantiating what they say, that they're correct and that they've got a strong argument. And I just don't think that's really how it works.
Yeah, when you read the papers on genetics and bioinformatics, they use a ton of programs and technologies, and they use lab procedures that the guys like us who have not had the benefit of getting a degree in a college and going to the lab don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so you have that questioning right there, that you have not totally understood the paper until you understand all of what they're talking about, right?
Well, and the other thing is time. The other thing is as well, right? It's the way you learn science, or the way you're supposed to, at least. I mean, it's progressing through a historical adventure in a way. You don't learn about physics until you learn calculus. You don't learn quantum mechanics until you've learned about physics 1 and physics 2. Otherwise, it makes no damn sense. You don't learn organic chemistry.
Special relativity as well.
Yeah, precisely. You don't learn about the point of this is, like, there's certain courses that you take in succession because otherwise it's just not going to make sense. Like, people who look at, for instance, a biochemical pathway don't think that it's a machine usually. There's some people that do, and you need to pull them aside and kind of like, yeah, look, I can see what I can see why you think that, but remember, amino acids build proteins, and this is kind of a simplified model. But the point in doing so is that I don't think too many people who actually, like, are academically involved would ever equate by like a protein like ATP synthase or something like that to be an actual machine.
Yeah.
They might say that it has functions that are, like, comparable to a machine, that it has functions which are comparable and, definable in a programming language or things like that. But an actual machine, but something that actually takes on characteristics that machines do in the way we conventionally use that term, I don't think so. And I agree. That's something that, that point of nuance can't be overstated. It's when you actually
By the
look.
way, they are still streaming. Just throwing that out quick.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they're still talking about us.
There's no way they make it all the way through the video.
I'd be so disappointed if they're not still talking about us.
Oh, well, I mean, they are.
Oh, here we go. Pudding is very fast if you dilute it.
Oh, really?
Still talking about me. So, and that's the thing with Maddox and Standing for Truth and Raw Matt. They pull up all these papers and they make these confident points. And oftentimes, I have to go pull up those papers and I have to learn some things in order to figure out whether they're right or wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
They sound right.
Professionals in the field.
Being intellectually honest is hard. It's so much easier to just make shit up and pull shit out of your ass. Well, oh my god, I wish I could do that. I wish I could just make shit up. My elephant video would already be out.
I was lazy enough to just do that.
I know that's the problem. I can't put out good content because I'm like, okay, I'm not entirely sure about this. I got to check this. I got to check that. And it's like, I'll never get anything out if I have to be so. It's kind of a quandary. And they can put stuff out every goddamn day. They don't give a shit if they're right.
Yeah. The thing is, too, right? You have to remember that people that are lay people who don't have a very high understanding of this topic, or who have I guess a more surface level understanding, to be a little more generous, aren't held to the same standards that people who hold a degree or people who have obtained more advanced degrees, so to speak. And that's because I've seen people like who've gone through like a PhD, like a thesis defense and things like that. And trust me, it is one of the, like, from what I saw of it, and I'm eventually going to go through it. I hope to get a PhD at some point. It is one of the most, like, I got stressful just hearing and looking at it.
Yeah.
Because it is like one of the most stressful things you can go through.
Oh, it is.
It is like the most humbling experience like you can ever have in your life.
I got some friends that were almost killed by a PhD.
Oh yeah, because you are questioned about every detail in your project, and you need to defend every last ounce of it. And I don't know, or things like that aren't really acceptable answers. Mm-hmm. Like, you better have at least some justification for certain things that pop up in your work. Yeah. Because, like, as somebody who's an expert, right, in a field like in genetics or whatever, you need to be acclimated with what the research says and the direction it's going. Like, because people are going to want to collaborate with you, or you might want to do new research to build some therapeutic or whatever. And that's going to be a process that requires you to be up on par, like with research that's modern and being performed nowadays. Whereas with a layperson, I mean, if you just make a false claim, all people will do is laugh at you and tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're not going to get burned alive at the stake.
Well, yeah, I think that mostly holds true. But when these people are claiming to know more than the people who've already defended their theses, then, like...
Right.
I think it's fair to try to burn them at the stake.
Yeah.
Like I said, apparently Dapper Dino is creating like a technical breakdown of Raw Matthews' video, or Raw Matthews' paper, which
cool.
Good. Someone needs to fucking burn him at the stake for that, because it's atrocious.
Oh, you got to join in. Yeah, did you reach out to him to join in on that? I did today.
Is Leo aware of like what happened? I mean, with that paper? I don't know.
Did I forward you the guys the mail I got from PLOS Biology?
No, you didn't, but you told us about it.
Yeah, they didn't really say much. All they said is, no, he did not publish with us. So, and anything else I can help you with, I'm sure they get this all the time. That people.
I don't know how often they would get this. Like, how often do people just pretend to publish something?
I think it happens enough.
I wouldn't imagine it very often.
People pretend to
blow it up.
publish things? Oh,
okay.
God.
Oh, wait. So, Leophilius, have you heard about the whole raw mat?
Have I heard about what? What's that?
The whole raw mat debacle?
Maybe explain it a little bit.
So basically, Raw Matt published. He wrote a paper, and he had like a banner on it that had like it wasn't like formatted like an actual paper, but it had like the banner of like an actual paper, and it had a disclaimer that went to like an actual paper site and all this kind of stuff. It had a legitimate DOI, DOI, and then like he had his paper, and it was pretty bad. It was just a bad paper. I mean, he was at least implying that it was peer reviewed, right? And so Redefined Living sent that to Speed, and then Speed sent it to us, and then we basically, like collectively, all three of us made sure as many people saw it as they could. And so whenever he saw that his paper was getting, a lot of views and a lot more traction, that kind of stuff, he removed his DOI and his banner, his bio banner, and then he eventually just like deleted his paper and tried to like cover up and pretended that it never happened. And then whenever someone asks him about it on his YouTube channel, he blocks them.
And what was cool is I was at a hangout with Dapper Dino and TD Lane, and he actually edited it while we were talking about him live.
Yeah.
So it was
really?
Yeah, so somebody in chat said, paper changed just now. It just got edited. And then when we tried to ask him about the paper, he blocked us in comments. So and then he did a comeback video, and he never mentioned that goddamn fiasco, the paper fiasco. We're calling it Papergate.
Papergate. Yeah. So basically, he's just lying. Wow. He lied to his base. You know, I think, as far as I know, Redefined Living is under the impression that it was actually like peer reviewed and stuff.
Yeah, because he said it to me. He said it to me in chat, and he was like, read this, and then he was calling me out because I came right back and said, it's raw mat. Why should I read it or something? And then I went ahead and looked at it, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So he was literally,
I read about
if not directly lying and like saying that it was peer reviewed, he was definitely implying it, and he was lying to not only the people he disagrees with, but like the people he's friends with. He was literally lying for Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think they all do it. And the other thing that I think it was Dr. Dan or somebody pointed out, these guys are making $150K a year. These guys that are at PhDs.
Well, not raw mat.
No, not raw mat.
Raw mat isn't making that much.
He's Foz Rana and all these guys. They're the source scientists for these guys, and those guys are all getting paid a ton of money.
Well, I don't think Foz is making that much either, because, like I said, he's not part of like any of the big corporations.
Yeah, he might not be. I think I bet Nathaniel Jensen is pulling.
Yeah. Jensen, Behe, Sanford. Let's see, Snelling, Georgia Purdom, all those people, like the AIG, CMI, Taz Walker, those people.
And then when you think about what kind of work they have to do, I mean, they don't even have to do good work.
Yeah, they have to lie for a living.
For $150K, I think I might sign up for some of that.
I wouldn't call someone like Standing for Truth or John Maddox or Smokey Saint like actively lying for Jesus. We have direct proof that Raw Matt was lying, Like, obviously they're spreading misinformation, they're wrong, but I think they actually believe what they're saying. But Raw Matt was just straight up lying. Like, there's no...
The thing is, right, that is straight up academic fraud.
Yeah, and it's illegal. What were you saying, Leophilius?
No, I made a comment to myself. I said, apparently I'm the only guy that knows how to shut lights off in this house.
Oh,
the stair
okay,
light was on, and my grandma and nephew went up to bed, and that was like an hour ago. Always got to complain, well, we need to shut lights off and save money. Well, then shut the lights off. I always shut lights off. I was raised on that. It's instinctual, like flushing the toilet or putting a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that literally, I mean, it's almost tempting, like, to put pressure on him because I do know a friend that deals with legal work.
Yeah.
And I could, if I really wanted to, like, involve him in this process.
Yeah.
But
I think Dapper is putting out a video on Thursday where he's just going to flame him.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, too, it's like, because I don't think this is the only time Raw Matt will attempt to do this. I do think, like, that this is kind of setting the stage for Standing et al. To be, like, try to get published in peer review.
They're going to get protected from peer review. If
they are.
Well, Raw Matt did it before in his book. He, like in Apo A1 Milano, he referenced a couple of papers, and the papers didn't really have anything to do with what he was referencing at all. Yeah. He was tossing in references to make it look like he knew what he was talking about, and I caught him. And then all of a sudden they shut up about Apo A1 Milano. But when you catch them, they'll just shut up about them. They'll never talk about it again. But it is definitely dishonest as hell.
Well, I want to see Raw Matt actually submit his paper to peer review because it'll get flamed. He can't do basic algebra. Literally, if you look at, like, he has a formula specified, and then none of his numbers, if you actually like plug and chug, are what you would get if you plugged into his formula. It's crazy. Like, all of his numbers are just like 3 or 4 off for some reason. Like, he doesn't explain why. And like mathematically that wouldn't work. It just doesn't make sense to me. And to me, it's either he plugged the numbers to get what he wanted, but some are like up and some are down. It's just weird. What?
I said Smokey's going off on speed in his stream right now.
Is he? Can we listen?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a second.
And the longer you guys talk about and try to explain away that it isn't a code, the more desperate and stupid you look. Like, seriously, like, it is such a ridiculous. The fact that we even have to take the argument to this level to placate your ridiculous, grotesque egos and your denial of basic facts staring you in the face, it is shameful.
Now, what's your argument?
By the by, currently, there are 1,370 people attempting to do this, and 79 different teams from around the world that are working on this project.
Oh, is John Lee?
Oh,
by
the way, one of which is Lee Cronin.
Of course it is.
So, for all you trash talking idiots,
did you just orgasm?
It is not a real code.
Trash talking idiots.
Yes. Go tell. Oh, you know what? All these atheists. Speed of idiot moron tweaker pudding. You and the Stooge crew should go tell Lee Cronin that it isn't a code. You know what? I dare you. You know what?
Did I say it wasn't a code?
I dare any of you vacuous idiots to
You've been defending
that stupid argumentation you just put out there, Speed, that your moron crew didn't bother to tell you was stupid as well. Take that to Lee Cronin and tell him how it isn't really a code.
I think I will.
Tell him. I freaking dare you to do that.
I think it's funny he's going after you because I'm pretty sure I was the one who made this comment that he's responding to.
Right.
Sound, speed of pudding.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell Lee Cronin that I believe it's a code. Do you agree with me?
No.
Well, the thing is, like, okay, let's actually take him up on that. I will.
I think I'm going to email him too.
I will email him, like, in regards to if he thinks, like, if he thinks the genetic code is a code in the sense that, in the way that programmers use it in their own kind of language.
Right.
Or if he thinks that it's analogously related to a code, and if so, kind of to explain that distinction.
Did you see that programmer that was in our stream last night, was it? Is that when we did this?
Yes.
Programmer? Are you talking about Vesta Freya?
Who was it?
Vesta Freya?
Yeah, Freya. Yeah. And also very irritated when they compare basically the cellular biology to programming languages. They're just two different worlds. It's just bullshit. I mean, it just does not work the same. If you only know if then else, if that's the only programming you know, then yeah, you might think so. But no, it's just they gotta knock this shit off. But anyway,
But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually something that might be worthwhile doing. Yeah. To email Lee Cronin about whether or not he thinks, if he actually believes that, DNA is information in the way that, DNA is information in the way that programmers refer to, like, that type of term. Because I don't think
literally anything is information.
Yeah, it is. And basically, I was going to. I did a video and didn't publish it.
That's right.
On information.
I meant to say if he thinks that DNA is a code in the way that programmers refer to the term.
Right. So, I mean, it is a code because there's because of the tRNA is an adapter molecule, and it could have been different, so you could have had a different code. So in that sense, we could call it a code, and that is the sense that biologists call it a code. But it doesn't go any deeper than that.
There's stored information.
I think whether DNA is a code is an entirely contextual thing. How are you looking at it? And that's why I think that from an objective standpoint, and this is just me, that it isn't a code, but I still think I would in fact argue that it's useful to look at it that way simply because of the way that it operates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do a table, which is a code table, which is something that I learned in first grade, and I think Boy Scouts how to write codes. It's just, I don't know. But I'm starting to enjoy getting spanked by Smokey. Is there something wrong with me?
No.
I just find his insults funny.
They are. It's just fucking incredible. I mean, he really, he really has an elegant way of calling you trash, and it's pretty cool. So
yeah.
But I mean, I haven't had this.
one-term
I haven't had
trash
this. Go ahead.
What?
I haven't been this abused since I split up with my wife. so this is all new to me.
Wow.
I hope the hell she's not listening.
Have you guys
Wow,
heard Smokey's term?
What did you say?
I'm looking up Lee Cronin.
What did you say, Leophilius? You're cutting in and out pretty bad.
Yeah.
I said, has Smokey called you guys? Has Smokey called you guys trash clowns yet? That seems to be his new term.
Oh, for sure.
There are people that he doesn't really seem to agree with. He calls them trash clowns.
Yeah, he's called me that.
Yeah. I don't think they've ever specifically referred to me in any of their conversations. So I don't think I've been labeled a trash clown, but they're calling us the Three Stooges, and they've called us trash clowns collectively.
Okay, Walker, if we have one goal over the next week, is to put you out in front of this team as a critic of Smokey and John Maddox.
Oh, no. I mean, I am a critic of them. I think they're both assholes.
No, I mean, we got to get you out in front we got to get them to start abusing you equally. Because
yeah, I feel left out with all this abuse going on. No. I mean, I think they're both assholes. I'm not going to go after, like, Maddox for his physical appearance or anything, or like, any of their like past, like any of the shit they did in their past. I will go after them for their like trash ideas. They're stupid and they're assholes. But
I'm sending them a text now. You can see it on the screen.
Can you abuse? Wait, you got to go to live. You're not live right now. You're like a few minutes behind. I need to make sure.
Oh shit!
That
if you hit the live button next to the
science degree, but not the bullshit. Be cool, and that was a message from God. So
it's gonna be really cool, guy.
You're gonna be cool, and it is cool in here right now.
Not so much.
Speed wants us to abuse Walker. Walker hasn't said anything worth abuse, Speed.
Damn it!
We're not abusing anyone. We're just pointing out nonsense.
Now they're on.
Today. That's all.
Walker
hasn't talked enough to have any real meaningful engagement because we don't sit here and just go off on people with nonsensical points. We actually try to make a point. So if Walker hasn't been talking,
do you?
There's no reason to say much, is there? We're not petty gutter trash like you, Speed.
Oh, that is really precious.
In the information age we currently enjoy, to me, it's a completely implausible concept to conclude that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, WordPress, apps, or any of the aspects of technology we.
All right, cut the cord.
Lord has a pretty good point. It's pretty insulting when I'm not even good enough to be a trash clown.
I know. God damn it!
I know, man.
I feel so fucking bad.
All night.
Come on, Walker, you got to be better, man.
Yeah, you got to fucking pick your game up here, dude.
Smokey, your breath smells bad.
Fuck. Oh, well, we're going to have to work on that. We're going to have, if we're not giving you, man, enough time to trash talk with us and enter the trash clone van. We want you in the van, man. So, oh, shit. Anyway, I don't know. This is the thing is, I would listen to this whole thing, but God, how do you find content? Something worth addressing? I don't know. I despair. Anyway, so this paper we're going over tomorrow with Kunin, he says something very interesting in it. He has a method of determining what is information and meaning in using genes, basically using conserved genes. And he said, but the entropy increases dramatically faster, and as a result, the evolutionary information density sharply drops with complex organisms. So he says the genomes of unicellular organisms and viruses appear to be incomparably better designed than the genomes of plants or particular animals. So he uses a mathematical treatment of Shannon information and this derivation of meaning from conserved sequences in the genome, and he determines that prokaryotes or simple cells are far better designed than eukaryotes, which really got my ears up, with this paper. So it's a pretty cool paper. And Molecular Alchemy. He says he's reading it tonight, and he says he knows a bit about this. So we are going to try to have an interesting conversation about this paper. And this is I think this is one of the ones, 2016, Kunin. I think it's in John Maddox's list of papers that he supposedly read. I wonder why he didn't cherry pick that quote. So basically, fucking bacteria is better designed than a human being, according to Kunin. Anyway. What do you think of that?
Me?
Yeah, Walker.
God.
Okay, and weave in some trash talk on Smokey when you respond.
God, I'm not good at coming up with stuff on the spot.
Come on, Walker. We're gonna have to haze you after this if you don't do well.
Suck.
Yeah, Smokey's about as complex as a prokaryote.
There you go. Fuck.
Wow. That's all prokaryotes, man. God, it's harsh.
Burn.
See where they're at in their,
should I text that in their chat? Should I share?
Sure. I hope they're watching this section. They will. They will watch this section. Their skin is thin as shit. There's an insult. Yeah, you have a thin skin. Yeah.
Okay. Did you say? Are we just not trolling?
Yeah.
This is definitely called trolling, isn't it? I have officially become a troll in your basement. So that's my Twitter handle.
I just hope he calls me a trash clown.
Smokey just asked you a question on his live stream. Immutable.
Oh shit! Okay, let's.
He said, how does?
Okay,
he says,
you hear he lists all the script kiddie language. Okay, should I play it?
You have to go to live. You're still like.
I have to go to live and then I have to back
let
down.
me see where it would have been at.
Just go to like live and then go back a minute.
Let's try that one.
If you go live and you go back about a minute and a half, we should be maybe 2 minutes. We should hear everything.
Out of the abundant.
Are you ready?
Sure.
No, it isn't. And that's a beautiful thing about it, though, is that sometimes the most beautiful solutions that pop out of science, like some of those beautiful explanations, are the things that are like the least intuitive of them all.
Mm.
And I would have it no other way. I mean, it's fascinating to see kind of like how nature chooses to, have systems operate and work dramatically efficiently.
Oh, think about that statement. Think about that statement.
Oh, fuck.
How nature chooses. How does nature choose?
Selection is deterministic.
What is this? Do they even pay attention to what they say sometimes? Like they talk about templates and designs and codes, and then they turn around and talk about how there's no templates and no designs and no code.
Oh man, that's all you got from that. Holy crap.
Do they even pay attention to what they're even really saying?
Oh my
Most
God.
of the time, like, I mean,
dude.
He's nitpicking your language because he has no
14, 40, and 14. What are the other 14? I got 1427. Let's try that one. Okay, how far back am I?
Speed.
And while it continues to fascinate me that people such as Godless Engineer continue to make these same assertions, I'm just going to pull up a few papers real quick.
It's just, oh man. It amazes me that that's what Smokey parsed from my statement.
Right.
Because it's like, you must use that type of language because we're mesmerized by nature. I mean, I am at least.
Yeah, that's how language works.
Yeah. There comes a limit to like the things I can describe with beauty, like without just saying it's beautiful. And
I use the word spiritual, and I'll say, "Oh God," or or I don't know. I'll even use the word God to represent some of the things that I feel or express about the universe. I mean, I can do that. I mean, Christ.
Even when I say something like, "Oh, the design of biological systems," like in how their design is like so efficient. I'm not actually saying these things are designed. I mean, I don't think anybody actually believes that that's what my statement is to mean.
That's what I'm saying. He's nitpicking your semantics.
Yeah.
Where did he ask Walker a question? Is that after this? Leo?
No, he had asked. He had asked Immutable that question of, well, how does nature, what was it like, select for things or something like that?
Okay.
Selection's determinism. Natural selection is a thing with like actual predictable outcomes.
The actual answer to that question is like something I don't even fully know, and it's not something I can answer within 5 minutes. It's a lot of it is deterministic. Like it depends on the physical environments and
that alludes to one of the things that I love. That one of the assumptions that many theists make that just cracks me up is that they think that some of the answers to these questions are just simple, and they're really not.
Yeah.
And sometimes even understanding the explanations requires some level of rigorous understanding of the subject, and it's not like everything is this simplistic thing that we can explain in 10 seconds.
No, it isn't. I mean, I can try to explain the origin of life to somebody who doesn't understand chemistry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very difficult thing, actually. That's not very easy, especially when you don't get to use the language that chemists are typically acquainted with.
Well, if you do use that language, he'll call you a sophist. So
yeah, he'll call me a sophist because I'm using actual language that's relevant to this.
Did you see what's his name said he likes saying dirt baits? Dirt baits?
Dirt baits.
So I want to dirt bait Beta Wolf.
Oh boy.
I'd like to talk to John about one of his fucking papers. I mean, I'd like to have him on and defend one of his papers. And if we could have it, I mean, if he wouldn't go all arrogant and start chuckling under his breath and cracking his neck and all that bullshit that he does during debates.
I have a habit of cracking my neck as well, to be
fair. Well, don't do it during debates. It doesn't look. I don't know. Do you look like a Beta Wolf?
Hopefully, I'm not like condescending or anything.
Yeah.
But
don't worry about it, Walker. You're part of our group now. Fuck it.
Yeah, Anyway, I would like to have a conversation with him and try to figure out what he sees in these papers and how he makes that connection from code and language and semantics and syntax and pragmatics to there has to be an intelligent designer. But I would like him to start looking into his own mind, into his own belief system. And I think it's as simple as what Fazrana said, that he is not compelled by natural explanations. And if you are not compelled by a natural, I mean, like if you look at a bunch of Legos and you put them together and you realize that 6 Legos will get you like 8 trillion combinations. Some people that don't know that are not compelled to believe in complexity of Legos, right? Until you know that, until you see it. So why aren't they compelled by nature? Is it because... And then the other thing Fazrana said in 3 Hangouts separately, he said, this is about worldviews. And he's right.
No, it's not.
He said it is.
That's a bullshit lie.
For them, it is about worldview.
Yeah.
I mean, he
I don't know. I think John Maddox is pretty interesting on his beliefs because literally, as we've talked about, his only argument is genetics. The genetic code is information, therefore God, which is a non sequitur. It doesn't really follow, right? And then, like, how he can go from that argument to saying, like, okay, so therefore the Earth is 6,000 years old. There was a global flood. Blah blah blah. Like,
yeah, he doesn't believe. I don't think he believes that shit.
Well, I think he does because he claims to be a young Earther, right?
He claims to be, but does he really believe it? Because he never talks about
Oh, I
it.
think he does.
Yeah, well, at best, that only makes him like. So his argument, even if it followed, right, that would make him, ID. He could be like evolutionary creationist, right, where God created the first cells and then life evolved. But he never seems to defend his other beliefs.
Yeah, but if you listen to Standing for Truth and Praise That I Am, those guys talk about deep theology and biblical exegesis. Sure. When John Maddox joins in, he gets nowhere near that deep. Mm-hmm. I don't think religion is really at the forefront for him.
Yeah. I think Standing knows a shitload about the Bible. I think he has gone pretty deep into that stuff.
And he knows it by heart. I mean, he knows a lot of that shit by heart. And that makes me wonder, with all that bandwidth spent on the Bible, how much bandwidth he got for genetics.
Yeah. I really don't think he's super critical towards his own beliefs about like biology and stuff. But
The whole thing.
You want to be a creationist.
Okay, did you watch Dr. Dan's thing on? Okay, if Neanderthals broke into small groups and they interbred, right? They would find an increased homozygosity within those groups. But then if you look across groups, how much variation is there? And I believe they found very little.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the most disparate populations of Neanderthals are about 1/3 as diverse as humans, based on their mitochondrial DNA.
So that runs counter to his idea of rapid mutation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that fails any prediction that his hypothesis would have made.
Right, but you have to look across groups. You can't look within a group because possibly, within a group there would be low heterozygosity. But then if you look across groups, you're going to have high, or you're going to have low heterozygosity is going to indicate that the entire branch has low heterozygosity. So
yeah, that's something I hope, if I do end up talking to him again, because he's reached out to you and he left a comment on one of my videos. I'd love to talk to him again about it. I still think
we're going to get him on and talk to him about
I still think his idea is super unparsimonious.
But I think what we have to do is get him to draw us a picture of some DNA and tell us about loci and alleles, because I think
he knows that kind of fundamentals.
I don't think he does.
Like, I think he would know enough to like draw a diagram. I don't think he thinks about how created heterozygosity would fit.
He thinks that genes from other areas of the genome can somehow contribute to heterozygosity at one locus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting from him. Because he keeps saying, "Oh, there are millions of genes out there, so we can have this." If you look at I was looking at what is it, the coalescence book? They have one gene, and I think it's got 25 different alleles at that one locus, right? Mm-hmm. You don't get that from Adam and Eve with 4 alleles. That's not possible. It has to be from mutation. Yeah.
What happened?
No, my laptop, it's new. I'm still kind of figuring out.
Okay.
There's things I don't want it.
Hey guys, I think I have to head out for tonight just because I have some shit to do. But
well, you see,
it's fun too. I think we should probably go off air. This has been
that's why you never get trash talk, because you have to go to sleep, Walker. Okay, I'm gonna end the broadcast and we'll spend a few minutes chatting. Okay, so goodbye, everybody.
All right. Oh my God.